Hollywood is in a state of bewildered chaos, but not for the celebratory premieres and blockbuster triumphs Disney usually craves. Rachel Zegler, once heralded as Disney's bright new star, their chosen Snow White for a modern era, has seemingly evaporated into thin air. It's not a gradual fade, it's a sudden, almost theatrical vanishing act. Just days after hushed, frantic whispers emerged from the Magic Kingdom. Whispers of a tense, potentially explosive confrontation between Zegler and top Disney executives about the frankly disastrous performance of Snow White. She's gone radio silent, completely. The carefully curated PR machine has ground to a halt. No strategically timed red carpet appearances, no chirpy, brand-approved social media updates, no magazine cover reveals. Nothing but digital crickets. And the rumor mill is working overtime, churning out speculation like a Hollywood script factory on triple overtime. The most persistent, that she didn't just take a break, she hopped on a private jet. Destination, Dubai, leaving behind a swirling vortex of unanswered questions and a studio already reeling from a billion-dollar blunder, now plunged into full-blown damage control mode. Is Rachel Zegler simply seeking refuge from the torrential downpour of negative press, the scathing reviews, the online vitriol? Or is something far more dramatic, perhaps even legally fraught, unfolding behind the gilded gates of Disney and the opulent hotels of Dubai? Is she running from the immediate fallout of the Snow White catastrophe? Or is there a deeper, more complex reason for this sudden, almost clandestine escape from the public eye? The mystery surrounding Rachel Zegler's disappearance is now arguably more captivating than the movie that sparked it all. The first hairline cracks in the pristine fairy tale facade of Disney's Snow White project appeared not on opening weekend, not even at the premiere, but months, even years before anyone outside the studio had seen a single frame of footage. It started with a seemingly innocuous behind-the-scenes promotional clip intended to generate buzz and excitement. Instead, it became ground zero for a PR nightmare. Remember that now infamous viral clip? The one that ricocheted across social media, sparking outrage and derision in equal measure? There was Rachel Zegler, draped in the iconic, voluminous Snow White dress, not radiating fairy tale charm, but visibly, audibly complaining. Not about demanding directors or tricky stunts, but about her working conditions. Every hour I am in the outfit of Snow White, wearing the dress all 18 hours. I deserve to be paid for every single one, she declared, with a tone that landed somewhere between weary sarcasm and blatant entitlement. And the internet, that ever-vigilant judge and jury, erupted. It wasn't just a few disgruntled online trolls, it was a wave of collective audience recoil at what many perceived as breathtaking, tone-deaf entitlement. The clip became a lightning rod for pre-release negativity. Professional critics, sensing the shift in public sentiment, piled on, amplifying the outrage. One particularly scathing review, pre-release mind you, famously quipped, "Cry me a river. Did Steven Spielberg stiff you on your West Side Story paycheck? Did Disney, the multi-billion-dollar entertainment behemoth, somehow forget to cut you a healthy check for playing the lead in their flagship live-action remake?" The sarcasm dripped like poison apple juice. This wasn't just fleeting online chatter. It was a palpable, growing wave of preemptive negativity, a storm brewing on the horizon even before anyone had bought a ticket. And as the subsequent box office numbers would chillingly reveal, this initial wave of discontent was merely the harbinger of a much larger, far more devastating storm to come. Behind the carefully constructed public image of Disney, behind the dazzling premieres and manufactured optimism, the mood within the studio walls was reportedly turning toxic, bordering on outright panic. As the pre-release backlash mounted, fueled by Zegler's controversial comments and the growing online outrage, hushed whispers of impending legal drama began to circulate within Hollywood circles. Sources deep within Disney, speaking off-record and shrouded in anonymity, suggest that top executives were in a state of emergency mode. Frantic, late-night meetings were convened, not to brainstorm marketing pivots or creative solutions, but to dissect the contractual fine print, specifically those dreaded morality clauses. These clauses, standard in Hollywood contracts, give studios significant leverage to take drastic action, from public reprimands to outright contract termination, against stars whose behavior is deemed detrimental to the project or the studio's image. The very fact that morality clauses were being discussed in emergency meetings signaled the severity of the situation. Talk of not just reprimands, but of slashing bonunue. Behind the carefully constructed public image of Disney, behind the dazzling premieres and manufactured optimism, the mood within the studio walls was reportedly turning toxic, bordering on outright panic. As the pre-release backlash mounted, fueled by Zegler's controversial comments and the growing online outrage, hushed whispers of impending legal drama began to circulate within Hollywood circles. Sources deep within Disney, speaking off-record and shrouded in anonymity, suggest that top executives were in a state of emergency mode. Frantic, late-night meetings were convened, not to brainstorm marketing pivots or creative solutions, but to dissect the contractual fine print, specifically those dreaded morality clauses. These clauses, standard in Hollywood contracts, give studios significant leverage to take drastic action, from public reprimands to outright contract termination, against stars whose behavior is deemed detrimental to the project or the studio's image. The very fact that morality clauses were being discussed in emergency meetings signaled the severity of the situation. Talk of not just reprimands, but of slashing bonuses. Significant financial incentives often tied to box office performance and studio goodwill was also reportedly in the air, indicating a growing sense of punitive intent within the Disney hierarchy. But the truly telling and deeply suspicious element was the precise timing of Rachel Zegler's sudden, unscheduled departure. It happened not just after the Snow White bomb detonated at the box office, but right after credible reports surfaced detailing a top-level Disney meeting specifically convened to perform a post-mortem on the disaster, to dissect the wreckage, and crucially, to pinpoint who was to blame. And the uncomfortable truth, whispered in hushed tones in Hollywood power lunches, was that fingers were increasingly pointing in Rachel Zegler's direction. The situation allegedly escalated to such a critical point, a level of PR meltdown so severe that Disney, in a move of near desperation, hired a specialized media minder, a crisis communications consultant with a reputation for putting out even the most raging fires. This consultant, reportedly, wasn't just offering advice from afar, they were physically embedded with Zegler, a constant shadow, tasked with monitoring her every public utterance, ensuring she didn't inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, drop any more PR landmines about Snow White, the very concept of the prince, the outdated notion of young love, the legendary Steven Spielberg, who, as executive producer of West Side Story, had initially championed her career. Or even, perhaps most damagingly, her thinly veiled critiques of white audiences questioning her Latina identity. All topics she had, with a seeming disregard for PR protocol, touched upon in previous interviews that had only served to further alienate potential moviegoers. But even this last-ditch effort at damage control, this desperate attempt to muzzle the mounting controversy, couldn't stop the inevitable, the catastrophic box office reckoning that was looming just over the horizon. Because when the cold, hard box office numbers finally flashed across industry screens, they weren't just underwhelming, they weren't just disappointing. They were, in the starkest possible terms, catastrophic. Snow White didn't merely stumble at the box office finish line, it tripped, it fell, it face-planted in spectacular, record-breaking fashion. Early financial projections, initially grim, quickly spiraled into outright apocalyptic territory. The latest, most sobering estimates paint a truly devastating picture. Disney, the once invincible king of family entertainment, could be staring down a loss of anywhere between a staggering $200 million and a potentially crippling $400 million on this single ill-fated film. That's not just a box office flop, that's a financial black hole of epic proportions. To put it in perspective, that's roughly the GDP of a small island nation, swallowed whole by a single movie. The sheer scale of this financial disaster has ignited a firestorm of speculation within the industry. Some seasoned Hollywood analysts, whispering in backrooms and anonymous online forums, are suggesting that Disney might be actively, aggressively gearing up for legal action. Could they be exploring avenues to recoup their astronomical losses, perhaps by targeting those they deem responsible for the film's failure? The legal theories range from breach of contract accusations to, more dramatically, attempts to invoke those aforementioned morality clauses in a way that might shift some of the financial burden away from the studio and onto someone else. Others, perhaps more pragmatically, believe that quieter but no less tense negotiations might already be happening behind the closed doors of Disney's Burbank headquarters and high-powered Hollywood law firms. Are they attempting